Welcome to the Daughter Arise channel. This channel is all about bringing you content surrounding childhood sexual abuse. On this channel I share things to do from my own experience of going through childhood sexual abuse in hopes of encouraging and empowering other survivors. I also cover news stories surrounding childhood sexual abuse. I also do interviews with other survivors and people who support them to bring awareness to this subject as well. So if this is the type of content that you're looking for, please subscribe to my channel. Also share it with any survivors or people you know that's affected by childhood sexual abuse. And if you like the content that I share, then please hit the thumbs up button. So first of all, I want to start this video by saying RIP to Earl Simmons, better known to millions of people as DMX. He died on the 9th of April, supposedly of a drug overdose. I don't know if that's true or not. Some people are saying things about an injection to do with, the whole COVID thing. We don't know. Because this is all coming from mainstream news, that he died of an overdose or whatever, I'm going to reserve judgment on that for now until the official autopsy results are released to the public. Obviously the family know what's going on. I'm nobody in the scheme of things. There's a lot of opinions and different things going on, but the truth will come out in time. But today I want to touch upon DMX's life and the effects of childhood trauma. When DMX first came out back in probably about 1998, I know he had been doing things underground for a while in terms of, freestyles and different things. But when he went mainstream, I think in about 97, 98, he was a huge rap artist. Now, I am somebody who used to love rap a lot. I wasn't really a huge DMX fan, even though I loved a few tunes of his. I was more like a Tupac fan, Mobb Deep, Nas, these types of people. Those were the main ones I used to follow. But, I did like him as a person, and I did like quite a few of his tunes. Some of DMX tunes that really helped me through those difficult times, especially as an 18, 19-year-old, who had gone through sexual abuse and was deep in depression, was his tune Slippin', Heads Up, and also Lord Give Me a Sign. Those tunes that he did really spoke to me in the midst of my depression and gave me hope. And one of the things I liked about DMX is that he was always somebody that was very real, very authentic. He didn't put on airs and graces for nobody, and he was true to himself. And that is very rare to find, somebody who can be true to themselves, show their rawness, show their vulnerability, and just keep it real with people. And that was one of the things that made him very, very influential. But he also went through a lot of things in his childhood, and at the time, even though I knew a little bit of his story, his drug struggles, there were things behind those drug struggles that a lot of people seem to overlook. And that is why I think it's important to talk about childhood trauma, how it can affect you, because when you go through things in your formative years, meaning, in childhood, you're still developing, still learning, you are still getting a lot of support from those who are supposed to love you and care for you. When that all goes wrong, it can have a disastrous effect. And in DMX's life, he talks very openly on some of his records, especially on the one that I was talking about with Slippin', and also in interviews that he's done about the effects that his relationship with his mother had on his life. He had no father in his life as a young boy. His mother was physically and emotionally abusive. I know in later years, I think they did reconcile. And he talks about remembering incidents such as when he was told they were going to visit somewhere for a day or visit somewhere and being dropped at a children's home, and the effect that that had on him. Also the beatings that his mother gave him. And then, he was in and out of kind of children's homes, institutional places, until he was 14. There was somebody that he looked up to who, was interested in the same things he was, I think to do with music, who laced his blunt or laced his joint with crack. And that then sent DMX on a spiral of drug use problems that lasted throughout his life. And he's very open about sharing this as well. Also, when I watched his verses with Snoop Dogg, which was in the middle of last year, during the lockdown, he mentioned that he was also sexually abused at 13 years old by a 26-year-old woman. And I was a bit taken aback by that. And I just remember thinking to myself that, wow, you know, he said it, and then that comment just went completely over everybody's head, because obviously people, I think, were enjoying the entertainment and the verses and stuff. And you know what people are like when they're being entertained, they're not really caring about listening to serious topics. But it got me thinking about his life, and he went through so much. He suffered so much. And recently again, his longtime friend Swiss Beats did kind of a really touching and moving video about his friend Earl Simmons, DMX, and he talked about that he suffered for a long time because of the things that he went through. Even though DMX was hugely successful, hugely loved, had everything a person could possibly want, still suffered from those childhood experiences. And I can speak as somebody who has gone through childhood trauma, who's overcome many different things, is that the scars always remain. Obviously, DMX loved the Lord. The way that he talked about the Lord, the way he shared his love of Jesus with others, is exactly how it's supposed to be. To me, he shared more of his faith than I ever see all the popular pastors that people love, like T.D. Jakes and all these Jamal Bryants and all these different people that people absolutely love, have ever shared. He was talking about repentance. He was talking about, you know, getting right with the Lord. And even with all that, I think what is very true, that even when you have a relationship with the Lord, because I'm a born-again Christian, I was baptized, you know, many years ago, and, you know, I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, is that you can still go through suffering. That's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, or the kind of misconception people have about when you become a born-again Christian, is that all of a sudden your suffering stops. You know, you don't go through things anymore. And it's not true. All that happens is that you lean on the Lord for strength. You ask him to help you. You believe that, you know, things will get better for you, and that he will deliver and heal you from your affliction. And I'm reading a book at the moment by somebody called Dr. Nadine Harris, and it is about childhood trauma. It's called The Deepest Well. And she has a practice down in San Francisco, in one of the poorest parts of San Francisco. And in her findings, she has said that those that have had adverse childhood trauma, not just emotionally and psychologically, but also physically as well, it has been linked to things like asthma, strokes, and even, she says, if you've gone through therapy and been successful in going through therapy and you're living a really productive and functional life, that the effects of childhood trauma can show up in your biology, in your body, years later. And she shares a story of somebody in this book who went on to marry. You know, he went through physical abuse, emotional abuse in childhood, but he went on to marry, you know, his wife, got children, marathon runner, extremely fit, but one day this guy couldn't get out of his bed because of a stroke. People underestimate the effects of childhood trauma. You can be a functional person, you can be successful, you can have money, you could be doing all the things that people would perceive to say that you have a really productive and successful life, but the damage can still remain. You know, childhood trauma affects mental health, spiritual health, relationships with people, relationship with self, self-esteem, confidence, physical health. Childhood trauma can affect every area of somebody's life. And no matter how much therapy you can have, the scars can still remain. I've had therapy, and that has been hugely helpful to me. I went through childhood sexual abuse with my father, and that was from the age of 9 to 13 years old. And I share my story in my book, Daughter Arise, which I will leave a link to in the description box if you're interested in reading my story. And I have also written a book called Choose Life to support and empower survivors of childhood sexual abuse as well. And as I said, I'll leave them both in the description box below. But I can honestly say, as somebody that's gone through childhood trauma, who has gone through years of therapy, it took me 27 years to get to a place where I just felt okay about myself, to be leading a productive and positive life. I'm now 44 years old, but my journey to living a productive life really started at about 35 years old. Yes, I had a good life before that, but a life where I really felt that I was coming into my own, where I felt that the issues of my past were in some way tainting the things that I wanted to do. And it's possible, but for a lot of people, they attend a lot of therapy, go through so many things, and they still find it hard to move on past their abuse. And it's true for some people, and for others it's not. DMX went through so much in his life. Yes, he had drug problems, but we all have different types of problems. And it's very easy to look at somebody who's outwardly sharing their struggles and point the finger, whilst behind closed doors, you know, you're struggling with your own things. And the thing is, we can fool people all the time, but we can never fool God, because God sees the heart of a person. You know, he doesn't look at a person by the outward appearance, he looks at the heart. And that is in the word of God. You know, he looks at the heart of a person, and he knows what goes on behind closed doors. You know, the things that we don't share with the public. So the scars of childhood trauma really do need to be taken into consideration, because when you've gone through things that are so traumatic in your formative and developmental years as a child, it can really have a compounding effect on the rest of your life. And I know that, you know, it's hard for a lot of people to understand. That is why it's good to educate yourself with books such as this book here by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, because it helps you to understand that things are never just black and white. And my hope and prayer is that he is with Christ. For us who are born again Christians, that is the ultimate goal for all of us, that we will get to be with Jesus Christ after we leave this physical body. And when we leave this body, we go and be with the Lord. I know he had a praying grandmother, somebody who he loved dearly. He wrote a song about her as well, which was absolutely beautiful. And I know that as a woman of God, she prayed over her grandson. She was the only person that he said loved him. And that love that he got from her obviously was something else that had a long-lasting effect on his life. Even in his brokenness, he still touched millions of lives. Not many people can say that. By being authentically real and true to himself, showing his vulnerability, sharing his struggles. There's not many people that can do that. So R.I.P. DMX. My condolences to his family. I pray that the Lord bless and keep you at this time.